Good evening. What we're going to do in the next few minutes is walk you through what we found over the several months that have been back and forth to South Orange Maplewood. And I want to say with a deep appreciation to the board, to the staff, Jim, Cheryl, and others have been terrific, to members of the community who've come out many times, multiple times, to engage in direct and very honest dialogue. So I really want to appreciate that. Here's the process that we've engaged in so far. Community engagement started June 23rd. They concluded last Thursday. We also had an online survey which went live in June and ran through the summer to September 26th. The leadership profile is being presented, or has been presented ultimately to the board. And it does combine all the input that we've gained over the last several months. And then the application process is outlined here. So we already have several indications of interest, 33 to be exact as of today. So folks who have seen an early advertisement about the opening. Any potential candidate ultimately has to submit a background background information, profiles, references, and so on to have a complete application on our system. And then we do outreach to other potential candidates as we go forward. So we're already doing that, looking at people who can possibly fit the criteria. So we're in a process now of doing a number of different things all at one time. First is the recruitment phase, which we're in right now. We're doing pre-screening. So we are ultimately looking at those who have either applied or whom we are reaching out to assess their interest. And we look at the best fit to the criteria that you'll see a little later on. We're also going to present pre-screen candidates and slate them to the board in November 10th to be exact. And as that sub-bullet point says, it'll be a blind candidate list. So the board will get a list of candidates number 1 through 50, however many we have, and then we will recommend that certain candidates be seen, and then it'll be up to the board to select which ones they want to interview in the first round of interviews in December. And it'll be at that time in December that the board does an interview of the candidates, and those will then proceed on to a second round later on in December, more intensive interviews with the current board. If we are successful in presenting the right set of candidates, after much discussion by the board, then semifinalists will be selected, and then we'll begin our work on background and reference checks. In the third round, January, February, finalists will be selected by the board, and that will be the new board, the newly constituted board in January. And then the board may conduct site visits and other background references on the potential finalists. And then hopefully sometime in the early spring, that preferred candidate will be announced. So this is just a skinny down version of the search process. But again, we're already underway with looking at candidate background. This may be a little hard to see from back there, but we had over 1,000 interactions with the community, starting with board members, working with building administrators, senior leadership, and so on. We had great interaction with a number of folks from representing different groups. And I spent last Thursday here in the high school, and that was actually enjoyable. Students were very frank, very honest about what they wanted to see and what they wanted to hear or feel from the next superintendent. All of this will be in the leadership profile report that ultimately will get posted on the district's website. But to have 744 online results, if you'll see at the bottom, and we'll get into that in a second, is actually extraordinary. I think a lot more people feel comfortable sitting in front of a computer and giving their input. So over 1,000 interactions that we had over the course of the engagement process. And through that process, we asked 3 core questions. What are the strengths of the district? what are the challenges or issues that the district faces now and in the future, and what are the characteristics or skills or traits that you want to see and are necessary for the next superintendent. I'm going to highlight the online survey because it's so important, and again, we had 744 responses to that, and as you see, there's a breakdown here with a number of parents, 645, almost close to 90% response of all of the responses we received. So folks do know how to get on the computer and respond. And we thought this was extraordinary because sometimes the online surveys, while it is inviting to be anonymous, is a little harder to capture the feeling that people have. But as you'll see in the profile report when it's posted, South Orange Maplewood does not lack for honesty and candor when it comes to feedback. We think that that's good. It was very illustrative. So what I'm doing in the next 3 slides is just giving you a snapshot of the top dozen items that came up in the survey. So the first one you'll see there is, if I can get my arrow on it, recruit, employ, evaluate, and retain effective personnel throughout the district and its schools. Our benchmark, which is a roll-up of 36 different districts that have done this, is about 36%. So that's usually what we see when we go out and do searches. But here for South Orange Maplewood, 56% of the respondents listed this as a #1 item. So we think that that's significant. It puts emphasis on, as you look at this category all the way down in terms of where all is, this puts a lot of emphasis on what people think is most important. Not that academics is not, but that evaluating and retaining employees and also building a core team seems to be very important. And then if you look further to the, I guess that would be to the right, you see how the categories break down. So in this case, special community members, 69% of them thought that that was most important. I'm losing my arrow here, unfortunately. Building administrators, 1/4 of them thought that that was most important, and so on. The second category, have a clear vision of what is required to provide exemplary educational services and implement effective change. Our benchmark, 36%, but here in South Orange Maplewood, 52% thought that that was most important. So again, it gives us some guidance on what is important to the community when they decide to, when they're looking at the next superintendent candidate. Parents thought this again was very important, and you'll see a relatively even split. Promote high expectations for all students and personnel. 50% of the 744 said that this was a priority versus our benchmark. Increase academic performance and accountability at all levels. 45% said it was very important. As we look at any of the other categories, you see the weighting there. Listen to and effectively represent the interests and concerns of students, etc. 42% versus 38%. So again, this will all be in the report. You'll be able to review it and look at it. I won't dig into too much more detail, but you see then at the bottom there's a key, a legend. So those questions or responses that were in a certain color correspond to certain broad categories: vision and values, instruction, leadership, etc. So I would urge anyone who wants to look at this to really dig in and take a look at where the responses are. So this gives us, again, guidance on how to find those candidates and to winnow out those who can't meet this kind of high bar of expectation and accountability. So here are some of the common themes. This is just a sample of what we've heard. When it comes to strengths, that first question, diversity comes up hugely as an important reason for people to live here, that they're proud of. It's an asset, it's a virtue here in the joined communities of South Orange and Maplewood. Arts and music, people choose to live here. Columbia High School graduates compete successfully for the most or very selective college placements, the college offerings in terms of AP classes, etc., and the elementary schools. Also strengths that were called out: experienced and dedicated teachers, high parental participation and passionate parents, high expectations and a demanding community, proximity to New York, and the wealth of resources available, libraries and technology, etc. So again,